Hello, everybody. Can everyone see my face at the top right-hand corner of your screen?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about being gored by a cow and homeopathics for that. Has anyone been gored by a cow or gored by any instrument or fallen on their belly or abdomen? Any experiences here? Someone, none?
Just dog bites.
Dog bites in your belly?
No, sorry, on my arm. Yeah.
Okay. So what has happened, and this is a more general problem in India too, and that is in all the big cities, what has happened is the cows are on the road, and this is how they look, folks. They're emaciated. This one has smaller horns, but they typically have, the Gir cows have giant horns sticking out. They have calves. And this used to be coastal regions with huge pastures and fields where the cows grazed free. Now it's turned into tourist town. All the real estate has become too expensive, and these cows are evicted from their places, their homes, and nobody gives a farthing about these cows. And by law, this extremely right-wing guy, Narendra Modi, has said, you cannot euthanize the cows. So they are not taken to a shelter. They're not euthanized. They're out on these roads. They're having babies. They're emaciated. They're aggressive, and they have horns. I have never been gored by a cow. This was a first for me. But we were walking along this narrow road, and we were actually trying to dodge the evening traffic, because do you see that size of that road? It's 1.5 car width. And we thought we'd get taken out by cars, not cows. So we were walking in single file, myself, my grandson, and my daughter. He was on a tricycle, and I was in front. He was in the middle, and my daughter was in the back. This cow attacked us from nearly 3 meters away, came at me, put her head down, and literally came at me with her horns. So her horns were at my belly. And if it had been more momentum, or if I had been less aware, she would have perforated my intestines. So I was very lucky. I saw her coming at me. I put my hands out. Like that, and pushed her away, and I fell backwards, and that broke the impact. That broke the impact of the fall, but I was still gored. And so Goa is beautiful, but when you're gored by a cow, all sorts of things can happen to you. And we're going to talk about internal bleeding, external bleeding, blunt trauma, contusions. These are what you had land, the bump, or what you had, Tori, from your fall, a hard lump that falls, that appears on your head or your hand or your belly. And doesn't go away for months at a time sometimes, but it will with homeopathics, with the right homeopathics. Shock is something you want to be very aware of, and that's why I talked about awareness, because this morning, as I was doing the PowerPoint, all of a sudden I was writing all this down, right? Being gored by the cow, she's coming at me, I'm pushing. Oh my God, it could have been something entirely different outcome. And I felt weakness in my body. And I went over to my drawer and took some ACONITE. My body was in shock from thinking about it. And I pride myself on being objective, but my body has a different mind. It went into shock, fight or flight. My adrenaline surged, and I went into this shock mode. So anytime you feel this, guys, take an ACONITE, low potency. I took a 12x or something. Instantly better. When you're in shock, you'll feel weak. You'll feel diarrhea. Your mouth will get filled with cotton wool. Your tongue will get heavy. Your heart will either race or slow down a lot. And that is an ACONITE moment. In order to know that you need to take an ACONITE, you need to develop the awareness that we just talked about. if you're clenching your teeth and you're not aware, you're just gonna get worse and worse and worse. The key is at that time to relax and let this pain flow through you and just be aware. Just be aware, and your body will tell you, hey, girl or dude, I'm in shock and I'm feeling weak. And you let it be and you take your shock remedy. It had an instant effect on me today, and it had an instant effect on me the day of the accident. So that's where I got gored. This was day one. She had one horn up, one horn down. So it was a very malnourished cow to begin with. Her body was very ill-developed. Apparently, she'd been attacking a person every day, and the municipality didn't do anything about it. She came at me. You see that red point? That's where the horn gored me. And then it went up, sort of, it gored me here and then went up. And so there's a contusion here, and this is just the beginning of the wound. If she had gored me here, this is the weakest part of your belly, your umbilicus. I would have herniated, my intestines would have popped out, something would have happened. So I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. The other thing is, you notice this belly fat here? I have belly fat from going last year to my my brother's place, and for 15 days he was so terrified he didn't let me out of the house and just fed me like a turkey. And I put on 7 pounds of belly fat. And I have never been so grateful for belly fat, because that really protected me. So your visceral fat protects you from a great deal of damage. And I remember reading an article by Sally Fallon and Marianne and laughing about it, you know, thinking, well, now I know. The belly fat protected me from severe damage. It cushioned the fall. It insulated me. It insulated me when I fell backwards. I think I twisted my ankle a little bit, but nothing bad. So this was day one. What would you have taken when you went back home? Discussion. Anyone got any ideas? What was the first thing?
ACONITE.
Yep.
ARNICA.
Yep.
What was what am I thinking of? Well, with the ACONITE, you could do the RUTA, right?
Yes, very much so. You could do RUTA. And the first thing I did was apply ice, because the shopkeeper across the street actually saw that happening. She got us in, she made me sit down, gave me a pack of ice. This is post-icing. Before that, it had swollen up. And then my belly, you'll see in the next few pictures, has swelled up about 1.5 inches, my whole belly. And that inflammation is critical to healing. But you're absolutely right. I took an ACONITE, I took ARNICA every 5-10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. It hurt like hell after the icing went off. It hurt like hell. So I took ACONITE low, ARNICA low, ARNICA high. My daughter had the 30 Cs, the 200 Cs, the 1Ms. I took them all. And I was gonna fly out the next day. And so my big fear was, did it perforate any internal organs? Because otherwise I would have had to stay back, go to a hospital. And so I waited for 2 hours for my blood pressure to drop or to feel really ill, and I did not. And I made the decision to come home the next day. So this is day one. This is when I came back to Sebastopol. It was starting to turn, or the next day, actually, next morning, it was starting to swell. Wow. You can see this big contusion. It is right now, it is hard as a rock, but around here, it was black and blue, started turning purple and green. And had it not been for the ARNICA, it wouldn't have been a line. It would have been this whole patch. The ARNICA instantaneously mopped up the internal laceration. It mopped up the bruising, it mopped up the contusion, and it mopped up the pain. So I continued to take ARNICA and ACONITE continue to take it. And then it looked a little bit worse. What would you take if you saw this, in addition to the arnica and or the aconitum?
Maybe a higher potency?
Yep, good point. I took a higher potency. I ate turmeric, anti-inflammatory. I ate ginger, a lot of zinc in it. And I upped the arnica because it did hurt. And you'll notice that there was it was trying to break the skin, but it did not. And there I had my skirt here and a synthetic top, which protected me, I feel, from being gored and wounded. So I continued to take arnica, and then I added RUTA and calendula because I reckoned I had broken fascia over there. And then I was feeling underneath this. So it gored me from here, but I could feel a distinct underneath laceration, underneath my skin laceration. And so that's why I took the calendula. And the other very good remedy is Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus is for wounds that happen from surgery that are very deep and that cut through your skin, fat, and muscles. And what I felt, and this is where you want to be aware, how are you feeling? I felt this crack over here. Next to the gore, I felt a crack. So I started taking calendula and I started taking Staphylococcus aureus. And Staphylococcus aureus had the most effect, I think. It healed up from the inside much faster. The RUTA helped too, but you notice this was a 500-pound cow that came at me, and all I have is this little line, and it's gonna get worse, but it's rapidly getting better from the edges. And this is the following day. This is when this all turned black and blue, and you will notice that it's turning bluish now. It's not red as much as it is blue. And it's turning yellow at these edges. And what are remedies for that? What do you think that means? Any thoughts? It could, purple blue might mean an infection underneath the skin. The yellow might mean an infection. And so HEPAR is the remedy, and LACHESIS is the remedy. HEPAR is for yellow, remember. HEPAR is for yellow, and LACHESIS is for black and blue. And if that's what's going on underneath your skin, you want to take those. And I felt much better. So next was HEPAR in potency, LACHESIS in potency, and I continued with the RUTA and arnica. Especially when I felt pain, I went with the arnica.
Sushma, on the first day or two, would it have helped at all to use some of your urine on it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Urine is more for open wounds, however.
Well, that's what I was thinking for the one where it was a little bit.
Yes, I
out of.
could have put my urine on it. If it had been an open wound, there's nothing as wonderful and antiseptic as urine. Yes. On the first day, it didn't look like an open wound. It was just a red mark. And so arnica is for black and blue. And for the red marks, the red kind of trauma, it's bryonia. So I did take bryonia. I should have added that. But bryonia, the second I took bryonia, it aggravated and then it got better. So bryonia is the arnica for trauma that does not heal from arnica. It's red in color, and it is more than blunt trauma, but less than a wound. It's between a blunt trauma and a wound. And that's what this dot here was, this dot here.
Sushma?
Yeah.
What potencies did you decide to take and did take?
I took the highest potencies, which my daughter had. Arnica I took in low potency and then in higher potency, and I took it very frequently. The first day I just took arnica 200 the entire time. The second day I think I took a lower potency frequently. HEPAR and LACHESIS were 200. RUTA was low, 6 or 12C, something like that.
What guided you in knowing the potency other than your intelligence and your history with homeopathics?
Very good question. Depending on the acuteness, you take higher and higher potencies. So you judge it by how you feel, your pain. HEPAR, you take in low when it is starting to suppurate, and you take it very high to abort the suppuration or the infection process completely. So in the very beginning, when you see this kind of yellow here, you take a very high potency. I would have liked a 1,000,000 potency, but all we had was a 200, so I took the 200. I would have liked to have taken LACHESIS in a 1M, but 200 is what she had, and that's what I took.
How did you determine the frequency that you took? Like if you had a lower dose, you took the 200, but you would like a 1M, but you took it, did you decide then to take it more often than you would have taken a 1M?
Yes, more often, and I based it on how I felt, how my pain levels were, and what happens with homeopathics is you feel, before it heals, you feel well-being. The minute you feel well-being, or there could be an aggravation. Aggravation means you took too much, too fast, too high a potency, but then it gets rapidly better. So either there's an amelioration or an aggravation, you're on the right track. But if nothing happens, you're not on the right track. And with the bryonia, I felt an aggravation, so I tamped it down. I didn't take any more, but it healed very well, the middle thing. And I took bryonia very sporadically after that. But the HEPAR and the LACHESIS really helped with the what could have been an infective stage. And I didn't know, see, I didn't know how deep it had gone. I mean, the horns were about 1.5 feet long, and they gored me, you know. The Gir cows have long horns, they're feisty. And that also brings up the environmental issue of, you know, this is what's happening in the Bay Area. The farmers are going out of business, their cows are going out of business, they're gonna kill them. No, they're not gonna be on the roads, but look at what we're doing to our environment, to our animals. You know, that cow was a very angry cow. If she had been in a good place, she would have been very tame and very good. And so we're torturing our animals, we're torturing our environment, and it's a butterfly effect. And everyone, our next door neighbor said his daughter got thrown back 2 feet by the same cow just a few weeks ago. She's a menace. You know, over here she would have been euthanized, over there they should have done something about it, but she continues to harm.
Sushma, if you haven't got the high potency, can you water dose
Yes,
to get the higher potency?
you can, but take whatever potency you've got. Because the higher potencies, you can water dose, but you'd have to succuss after each dilution. And you got to succuss a good 40, 50, 100 times. But if you have low potencies, don't worry, just take them very frequently. And your head is not going to work as well, which is why I'm giving you colors, and your instinct has to guide you. I feel my legs are weak. Oh my God, how am I going to fly out? That's ACONITE. If it hurts and it feels like someone ripped a hole in your belly, that's ARNICA. If you feel an actual incision on the inside, and you will feel it if you check in with your belly, then Staphylococcus aureus is very good, and so is calendula. It'll granulate very well. And the other thing is ghee. Ghee is very rich in fat-soluble vitamins A, D, K, and E. Apply it, sit in the sun. Apply cod liver oil, sit in the sun. All the difference. Then,
Sushma, what does granulate mean?
Granulate means new tissue form over the cut, and it'll form without scars. It'll form clean, and there's a very good reason not to have scars. Your body is run on electrical meridians, and when you have scar tissue, guys, the meridians, the electrical flow gets impeded. You know, with C-sections and scar, and what is that they do to women? Episiotomies. Those are all scars we inflict upon ourselves that do much damage to the electrical flow of energy. And so you want to do everything you can to get rid of scar tissue. So now you'll see that it's kind of dried out a little bit. The circle, the blue, black and blue has increased here, but it's not come here. This area still got protected, and it's slowly going to the perimeter of the circle. And what are the right remedies for that? Same, I continued with the LACHESIS, HEPAR, and RUTA after I arrived here.
When you continued, did you go with a lesser potency?
I went with a higher potency of the HEPAR, a moderate potency of the LACHESIS 200, and RUTA very low potency. RUTA and low potency can be taken several times a day for a long time.
Okay.
The other very important thing is RHUS tox, because if a hernia were to form here, the upper epidermis gets, sort of sliced or torn, and your intestines pop out. And I wanted to prevent that, hence RUTA and RHUS tox, to join the fascia together better, faster. So you're going from shock management to pain management, to repairing the bruise, to dealing with the contusion, to repairing the underneath wounds, to granulating the open wounds on the inside and outside, to repairing the torn fascia. You have several layers. I should have put a picture of the skin. You have the epidermis, the dermis, the subcutaneous fat, the muscle, and then your internal organs. The other thing was, I did not want to land in a hospital, folks. I just did not. It would have been awful, and neither there nor here. Here they would have made me vaccinate to go into hospital. So, so that's what it looked like. Gory but healing. There's still yellow, and that called for HEPAR. So this was dark before. Remember, it was dark here before. See that? This area is dark, and now it's cleared up. It's cleared up. It's going from purple to yellow, yellow-green, and then it is coming down.
So the yellow means there's infection possibility?
Yellow, it could be infection or it could be healing. And so you don't want an infection and you want it to heal. And that spells yellow is the color of HEPAR, a HEPAR infection. And so I took very high doses of HEPAR. I think I took 1 m, then I was taking 200. And this is black almost. It's not blue anymore. So that's a LACHESIS. So to the extent there was other damage, LACHESIS would have cured that. And so I was taking HEPAR, LACHESIS, ARNICA, RUTA, and CALENDULA. I had tapered down ARNICA substantially. It wasn't hurting. It was actually burning here underneath. So I took arsenicum one time. That really helped. But the calendula helped, and the Staphylococcus aureus helped the most. Because over here, I think it had broken from the inside to out. And there's a big rock solid bump here right now.
Sushma, would Epsom salt pack been something that could have helped?
Yes, I took baths every day. One day I think I took an Epsom salt bath. Magnesium would have helped. But largely it was resting out in the sun and grounding. The electrical energy is what you need to heal. The fat soluble vitamins and the cod liver oil, the sun, and ghee. I slathered those, and every day I was sitting out in the sun. It happened, it healed very fast. Now it's all shrink. See, the swelling has gone down. My belly has shrunk. Here it was very swollen. It was swollen about 2 inches. And now it's shrunk. See the scrunchy skin around. This is dried out. The upper things are gone. This is all gone. I was taking at this point calendula for the wound underneath this contusion. I was taking ARNICA whenever I had pain, and I started RHUS tox. RHUS tox because I wasn't sure whether this was a contusion or a hernia. So, and then for a contusion, you take CONIUM, which is why I asked you to put your finger in a CONIUM solution. It is great for wounds bangings where you get hard as eggs or hard lumps. The CONIUM will help. And I started feeling dizzy, but that was from a bug that I had caught the week before last, and I suspect it was one of these bugs because I got dizzy. When I get dizzy, CONIUM helps, and phosphorus really, really helps. And I took phosphorus in potency 1 m.
It's just land again. Would it be reasonable or even not unreasonable? And I've done this on myself in the past when I had a hard cyst of some kind, to do gentle massage to communicate, to relax that area, to make it softer.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did. I'd lay down in the sun, lots of cod liver oil and rub that gently. And yes, that really, really helped. Absolutely. Calendula, arnica, RHUS, and then CONIUM for the contusion. So remember, contusions, CONIUM, guys. Contusions is not arnica. This blue, black and blue stuff is arnica. Contusions can be baryta carb, but CONIUM works magically. And that's the contusion. This was March 5th, a couple of days ago, and mostly gone. I was taking Staphylococcus aureus and RHUS now. The pain's gone. I'm taking RHUS to prevent a hernia and for the fascia to heal. Staphylococcus aureus for this internal thing, which is completely gone now. It was hurting as if there was a wound on the inside to the out. The Staphylococcus aureus helped, and RHUS to prevent hernia. This is my cod liver oil, and sun, very important. Much more healed, much more healed, much more healed, and today.
Great. Yeah.
And so this is what it was like when the wound was at its worst, and this is what it's like 13 days later. No doctors, no hospitals, homeopathy, food. When I came home, I immediately started raw milk. I applied raw milk. I applied cod liver oil to my belly, and that really rested. I was very jet lagged, and that really helped. I don't know if the dizziness was from the influenza illness or if it was from the shock or wound or jet lag, but for me, phosphorus does the magic. I had dizziness for a month after I got COVID in Paris, and phosphorus was magical. But CONIUM is equally magical, and that will work for your contusion as well as dizziness. And if you look at this picture here, you will see this raised bump here. You see that?
Yeah.
That's the hard lump. And that is gonna take, I'm gonna give this 3 months of CONIUM and other treatment. And if there's a hernia, that means my intestines will pop out. I will get it surgically. It'll need to be surgically patched, but I'm hoping to avoid that. And so far it looks okay to me.
I have something to add to, I guess, the personal experience when I did have a hernia, and I had a hernia repair.
Tell me.
So I had the repair surgically done. And then I was working with a massage therapist whom I trusted very, very much. And she said, I can feel that there's scar tissue and it's attached to the adjacent fibers.
Oh.
And so what she suggested that she was doing, and she did, was my permission to work very deeply and to loosen the attachment of the scar tissue from the surgery to the adjacent fibers, the adjacent internal, whatever they were. She did that, and she gave me reports as well as me being able to feel that change. And it was a very, very satisfying experience, knowing that something that I have, which is, and that scar tissue could be loosened or could be eliminated or reduced at least.
Wonderful, wonderful. The power of massage, yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else have hernias patched or hernias at all, or inguinal hernias or hiatal hernias? These are all very treatable by homeopathy. Hiatal hernias, some hernias can be treated with breast tox, some with calcarea carbonica. Sometimes your intestines get twisted in a violent spasm and they herniate and you vomit or you have diarrhea. And Nux vomica is a great treatment for that. So before you go to hospitals or get them surgically fixed, please try these remedies for internal bleeding, external bleeding, blunt trauma, contusions, shock, lacerations, deep wounds. And again, you have to be aware enough to either tell a homeopath what's going on or figure it out yourself. And so that's why I think awareness is so important, because if you get too panicked, you're never going to be able to treat yourself homeopathically. And one of the big strengths of homeopathy is it forces you to calm down. You know, like Sunshine hurt her wrist and it was mangled, but she didn't panic to the point where she was completely frozen. She thought about it. She did this, then she did that. Then a little bit later, she did the other. And once you do that, you have a different relationship with the condition of your body than you otherwise would, where you gave up control to somebody else. You follow me?
Yes.
And what helped with me was that I had, you know, I started treating it for myself, and then I saw someone who had almost done a similar thing to her hand and wrist. She went to the emergency room
Oh, yeah.
and waited for 9 hours to be seen. And this was in the height of all this virus stuff, you know, who wants to sit into an emergency room?
The stress.
And then all they did was, you know, they put her in a cast and, so, you know, had her come back when it was, you know, like in a couple of days so they could review the whole thing. I mean, I just thought, no, that's not what I want. Yeah.
That time is so precious. And if you spend that time in trauma, you're going to do untold damage to yourself.
Yeah.
Question
Yeah.
for you, Tsushima, if you bear with me. You said that you had jet lag.
Yes.
If you'd have taken homeopathics for the jet lag, and I know you've described some, I know some, would that have interfered with the treatment of your belly?
No. You treat symptoms as they come along. You treat symptoms as they come along. I didn't realize I would get this much jet lag, but as soon as I did take ACONITE works very well for me.
Right.
At about this time, like before our meeting started, I was feeling very sort of woozy, you know, not woozy, but woolly headed. And I took an ACONITE, boom, went away. And I don't know if it was because I was thinking about the accident or whether I had jet lag, but ACONITE works for both very well. Gelsemium works great for anxiety related issues with traveling. But jet lag for me, ACONITE.
Okay, thank you.
Couple things, you know, just picturing what happened to you yourself, you know, you yourself picturing. They say that, you know, like they found that basketball players, when they practice shooting the basket, if they just imagine it, they do better than when they're actually practicing throwing.
Yes.
Because you can go through the whole thing. So every time you think about this Goring, your body is still experiencing it.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
Totally.
I can understand why you say, you know, then you felt like woolly headed or something like that. But I was just, there was one other thing that you brought up that I was going to comment about. Now, maybe it'll come back to me, but that was a thing I thought of, you know, that be very careful about reenacting injuries over and over and over again.
You know, that's so wise. Yes.
You know, what I'm saying is just imagining them inside.
Yeah. That is so true, because as I was doing this PowerPoint, it welled up, Sunshine. You're so right. And that brings me to trauma. You know how they keep, the psychiatrists keep bringing up old traumas and you relive it. And, you know, I don't know how much good or bad it does, actually. I don't mean to bury it. I don't mean that one should bury it, but when one regurgitates it or digs it up, one should do it with forethought and caution. And that's a very good point.
And see if there's a way to handle it, like you treated it by taking the ACONITE.
Yeah.
But I remember I was getting a massage one day, and the person touched a certain point in my back, and I started to cry. And I saw myself in the crib as an infant, and I was cold and I was crying, and no one was coming to take care of me, to help me.
Wow.
And the thing is, we worked it out. They kept, you know, they worked it so that I could release it. So that might be something too, that you can do is get a little bit of body work,
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
so that you can get it, because that was a trauma to your body for
yes,
sure.
yes. And, I talked about myself, but I've not talked about the trauma to my daughter and my grandson.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were far more traumatized than I was, because I was in front. It happened to me, but another cow was attacking my grandson. He was on a tricycle, and my daughter turned it to the left, and he tipped over, and that's what saved him from being gored in the cheek.
Wow.
Oh,
My daughter was absolutely, I mean, she's the person who takes on the burden of everybody around her. And I'm saying, I've got no problems. Don't you worry about me. She was the anxious one. I had to give her an aconitum. I gave her many aconitums, actually. And then my grandson kept saying, that cow was so naughty. He said, oh, naughty, naughty cow. She gave Aji a bow. Bow is bruised in Marathi. So he said, she gave Aji a bow. And it's cool. He was telling everybody, there's a naughty cow who gave Aji a bow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so there's the butterfly effect, right? Why was this cow on the road? Why do we have a system where we're selling our land and not making it available for cows? Why are we letting it happen to our farmers here? 5 farmers have gone under in the last year because of volatile organic fluid milk prices. We're killing ourselves with these behaviors. We're
I
killing.
can tell you why. I
Tell
can tell you why. Well, Bill Gates is buying up all the land, farmland he can.
It's horrible.
And they're
Horrible.
doing so much more of this fake food,
Yeah, GMO and fake. Yeah.
so that when we are in a terrible pandemic and there's not food available, well, there always will be the fake food.
That is, we got to fight this, guys.
Yep.
We got to support our local farmers. Whatever they got, we'll work with them and then go from year to year. This has been a terrible year for our farmer, but he's getting over it. He said he's not a quitter, and he is truly a fighter.
And we're helping him.
Yeah, we're helping him. Yeah. And that brings me to kits. Does everyone have these basic remedies, guys?
I don't have the M's.
no.
Do we all have all? Excellent, excellent. Get those kits. Ladies and gents, get those kits. You should not be caught empty-handed in the event of an accident. You never need to see the inside of a hospital or a doctor if you're well equipped, and get emergency potencies. You're not going to take HEPAR for everyday cuts and bruises and suppuration. You're going to take it when you have a bad thing going on in your life. Most of the time you're doing natural things like drinking raw milk. So keep the high potencies. If you get anaphylactic reaction, get APIS. If you get, if you tend to fall down and hit yourself, get FOS 1M, CONIUM 1M. If you break your skull here, get calendula 1M. Get Staphylococcus aureus if you have knife cuts when you're cooking. So please keep equipped, be equipped.
You just stopped recording when you said all this wonderful stuff.
Oh, no, I didn't stop recording. In fact, I should stop recording, and I'm going to do that now. Thank you, everybody. I'll stop recording, and then we can carry on the discussion.
Because my thing showed that it wasn't.